One day I was standing outside of our house and my mother was at the door. And she would often let people borrow things without any problems. Whatever she had, if she had it to give, she would let people have it or borrow it. And it got to a point, and even she knew it, that when she would let certain people borrow it, they would say it's theirs now. They would act as if it was theirs. They would hold on to it until she said something. And I admit I was frustrated. I was like, why are you letting people borrow things, and they're just keeping it or acting like it's theirs. Before long they're just gonna keep it and that's it. And we didn't have much. My mother had moved us three children from Memphis, Tennessee. Her relationship with our father was not a thriving relationship. And she moved to give us a better life. So we traveled via Greyhound from Memphis to Illinois. And we stayed in my grandmother's back room for about a year until my mother was able to get a house across the street. And so she had two suitcases, $4,000, and three children under the age of 5. And even then, it was still climbing the mountain, getting stuff, establishing ourselves. And my mother met people, and her kindness drew people in and to help us. And I just felt like, why are you giving to them? And she said something to me that literally stopped me in my tracks. She said, "You give from the heart, and you expect nothing in return." And it's almost like I just stood there with this frustration, this anger, this like it's not fair. And then she said something else. She said, "You keep a pure heart." I said, "Oh, crap." Keep a pure heart. How can I keep a pure heart when, you know, y I just feel this anger towards them? And I know it wasn't just anger towards them. It was anger towards probably a little bit of my father. You give and you give and you give, and what do people give you in return? The frustration. Um, they take from you. That's what it was like. It was like they were taking from her, and I had experienced that. Felt that even with my father and my mother being kind, and I know there it takes two, so I'm not, but my father, dealing with his issues with alcohol and physically abusing my mother socially, spiritually, etc. And I just felt like this is another, I guess when you think about it in hindsight, this is another time that somebody just wanted to take and didn't want to own up to it, that this is not yours, this is my mother's. And I experienced my own where, misuse of my body. So someone took and this allowing this to happen. And I couldn't understand it at the time. But when she said, "You keep your heart pure," how do you keep a pure heart when you feel that people are just taking or just doing what they want to do when you have experienced the projection of pain? And that's what I want to talk about today because I've been talking about my mother's here on Create a Generational Love Cycle, where we dismantle the thoughts that created the generational cycle of pain, the one that's infecting hearts and minds in generations. And it's about mastering our minds, knowing that no emotion, feeling, thought, reaction, action control us. No, nothing that anyone says or does controls us or doesn't do or doesn't say. And purifying our hearts and embracing and experience and nourishing and expressing the God that is within us, the infinite intelligence, the great spirit, the energy, whatever you may want to call it. Remember, I'm not about what you call it. I'm more about what you believe this energy is. Do you believe that it is good? Do you believe that it's evil? Because what you believe is essentially how you act, how you see your identity. Because even if you don't consciously believe that There is a God that created you. The thing is, something created you. And it's our thoughts that believe either this energy is for us or against us. And when we think it's for us, we will act accordingly. There are times where we may forget and we need remembering that this energy is for us. And then if you think it is against you, then you're going to act such. You're going to be on the defensive. And those behaviors and those things that you attract to yourself because whatever you believe is essentially who you become and what you attract. And so that day when she said, keep a pure heart, and my mother has said a lot of things, but there were some things, some statements that she said, some phrases that she said that really took ground in me, that really sowed in me, that really made a significant impact on how I would think, how I would perceive life, how I would perceive myself. And even when moments when I didn't remember who I was, how these words brought me back to home, brought me back to my relationship with this creative intelligence that created me in all things. And so I've been working on that editing of my mother's words of wisdom that I'm hoping to bring out real soon, because even then I thought that her words were powerful. They were something that, oh my gosh, if we live according to this wisdom, then what life would we have then? Would we have the abundant life that we're promised in all areas, mentally, socially, spiritually, if we knew what we stood for and that we didn't shake from that? Because it's about, what do you stand for? Because if you don't really stand for anything, the quote, if you don't really stand for anything, you can fall for everything. And I've seen it in others' lives when they don't have those grounding principles to say who I am. And even when you have them, the need of continually reinforcing after you've gone through storms in life, to continue to reinforce and nourish and rebuild these spots that can be broken in your foundation. And that's the importance of keeping your mind um, pure, keeping your heart pure. So a pure heart, as we know, that whatever we think about, we become. You think about the law of attraction, you think about The Secret, you think about many of the great leaders that have spoken about this, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Dr. Joseph Murphy, which I started reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind back in around 2020. And I didn't realize that such a prolific author, profound author that he was, in helping to remember the creative power that we have. As the Course of Miracles says, that we're more powerful than we imagine. And what it is that we tend to be afraid of this power. We tend to be afraid of what we can do, because when we do realize that we have power and that we can create the life that we want, just like God created the heavens and the earth, that can bring a sort of fear to us, like, or even anger and frustration and resentment, because it's like, oh my gosh, if I only knew that before, what would I have created? But it's not about going in the past or being in the past. It's about starting where you are right now, to create a positive impact, to change the thoughts that are going on inside. And there's a biblical verse that says, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. The heart is fertile soil. It is the soil within our inner garden. The peace that we have still resides in us no matter what we've gone through. It is the thinking that our peace have been destroyed. It's the thinking that our safety net has been destroyed. It is the thinking that we cannot heal from this, that we are traumatized, that we are anxiety, that we are depression, that ends up attracting all of these things, because as we speak, we put those things in our hearts. And whatever we grow, whatever germinates, and we continue to and embrace those thoughts and nourish those thoughts with like-minded thoughts, that I'll never amount to anything, that people always take from me, that I'm just something that somebody steals from, and I'm stupid, or all these negative things that we tend to say about ourselves, that we continue to nourish those seeds, and then we wonder why we're not healed. That you have heard that nothing is good or bad. And I'm trying to remember if it's Shakespeare that says it, but our thinking is what makes it so. And I will try to find out who says that. But you think about that, we are the ones that do that create the perception of an event. And when I think about the spiritual journey that I was on, it's about what we perceive our experiences to be, that we can have a spiritual perspective, meaning seeing the bigger power, knowing that nothing, no experience, whether it's something that someone did or didn't do, said or didn't say, no experience defines us. We define ourselves. We make that experience to be what it is. That when an experience is an experience, it is just that. And that we go inside and we see, okay, what is in me that may have attracted this to me? How am I feeling about myself? What judgment have I put towards someone else? Because it says, do not judge, for by the measures you judge someone else, you will be judged too as well. So when we need to learn these virtues, compassion, hope, faith, healing, life, the great teacher that it is, the great the healing power, the nature and what it knows that we are, it will gently remind us of who we are, that we are not to judge, that we are to not have all this anger and frustration and guilt and shame in our hearts, because that's not who we are. To keep a pure heart mean that we are not passing judgment, meaning that we continue to seek out the true nature of our being and who we are. We continue to embrace the peace, the love, the creative power, the intelligence that are in us, to create the mindset, to create the lifestyle that we want. And I've I've said that if you hate yourself, if you are anxiety, if you are beating yourself up, how do you expect your body to continue to perform in that type of environment? How do you expect to bring about good things when you're constantly thinking of negative things, when you're constantly thinking of nothing is going to work out, versus nothing is impossible? When we have an impure heart, we 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 are feeding that through our nervous system, those vines that extend from the inner garden and to the brain and to every organ, every atom in our body. And we're feeding that. The nervous system is the wiring through our body. It is the communication channel to every cell that we continue to feed and say, we're not worthy. We don't deserve this. And then we want to know, where does suicidal ideation come from? Where does depression come from? Where is panic attacks? Where do panic attacks come from? We want to know, how can someone who is valedictorian end up getting pregnant and 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 not striving to be better? How come a promising young athlete ends in prison? Nothing, as my mother said, one of her other principles that I will talk about on this podcast, that has been so instrumental in my healing, because it's about healing from the inside out, not just that healing that you're constantly putting a band-aid, and band-aids can be the drinking, the overeating, the undereating, feeling like that we're in control by starving ourselves, when that's not actually true power. That is false power. That is the power that we have made real within ourselves, that is an illusion to what true power is. But how can a body continue to thrive and nourish when we are constantly beating itself, when we're constantly poisoning it with our negative thoughts, when we're taking on identities that were never meant for us to take on? We were never meant to struggle with our experiences in such a way, our struggle with diseases, and that how, not healing. I was reading with Rain and people that work towards helping abuse survivors that some statistics about just even adverse reactions can be a chronic condition in themselves because we continue and I'm saying it's because we continue to feed them. We continue to believe that there's no way out when there is a way out, when it's changing our thoughts, when it's allowing that experience not to define us, when it's allowing ourselves to heal, to acknowledge the truth of someone projecting their pain on us, because pain has no uh, it does not discriminate. It doesn't care what color you are, what race you are, what religion you are. It seeks, just like any thought, to to germinate and to grow and to spread. And we have to decide what thoughts we are going to bind and not allow to spread, or and not allow to spread, are those that we're going to loosen and to allow to spread. We have the ability, the power within us. And I know it's not about being positive, just being positive. It's about a trueness. It's about really taking ownership of this abundant life that we're supposed to have. And if you think that we're here to struggle for diseases, with diseases, and to struggle with healing, and to struggle with panic attacks, and to struggle with depression, and to struggle with anxiety, and to struggle with our weight, and to struggle with deciding how to take care of our bodies, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to reflect the truth that it was in there. We're here to be a reflection of this universal power that continues, that is about variety, that is about healing. When we get a cut, we don't often we don't sit there and beat ourselves up about if this cut will heal, or if things that happen to us and we don't even know on the inside that our body is taking care of it, but we sit here and we question the body's ability, the mind's ability to heal itself. And when we question it, we doubt it. And when we doubt it, we don't believe. And anything that we're able to do, we believe. We have to believe, the power of belief, because you're going to either believe in negative things and continue to make those grow and germinate inside of you, or you're going to believe in negative things. So, positive things, and let those grow and germinate inside of you. And then you will see your harvest. You will see the fruit of your labor, whether your labor was taken in negative or whether your labor was taken in more positive and more helpful and more conscious um, planting of seeds that will bring you the abundance that you deserve. So, keeping a pure heart is not just about knowledge and intellectual knowledge and just saying it. It's the actual the expectation. It is the work. It is the discernment of deciding, what thoughts do I want to keep in me? What thoughts do I accept? What perspective do I want to have? And I had to choose because I couldn't run away. Even though there was a time where I felt like I wanted to run, I couldn't run away because I was like, I didn't know what would be out there waiting on me if I did, what other negative things that would happen. And so I had to deal with what had happened. I had to deal with my experiences. And the way I dealt with it is I asked for help from nature, to be aligned with nature, to see the truth. And a series of events happen. And one of them is my mother really um, being fertile, soil being fertile, really being observant, really like soaking up these things these words that I resonated with, these principles that I build my inner and outer foundation, these seeds that I sowed with inside of me, to say that, and the belief that I believe that I shouldn't have to struggle for the rest of my life because of what someone did or didn't do, said or didn't say. And a pure heart led me to being there for others, even though they projected their pain on me. A pure heart led me to discerning what people to be around, discerning um, what words to keep inside of me, what to build inside of me. It helped me to see what life could be with a pure heart versus an impure heart when I started kind of thinking negative and during the latter part of my adulthood, and realizing and taking ownership of what I had learned from my mother and going back to those truths and allowing it to restore me. A pure heart will keep you will tell you that projected pain is projected pain and will give that back to the person that projected that pain on you mentally. You give it back. You don't take it in. You don't sew it in. A pure heart will keep your mind on what it is that you want to do, the positive things, on your desires, and it will help you to see that anything is possible. That when I sat and I visualized two children running down the hallway, that is something that I had two children running when we would go places, even see homes that we would be pondering if we should punt to purchase, um, uh, thinking that I could still get pregnant despite what happened to me, someone misusing my body, believing that I too can ask for the universe for clues to help me to figure out if this person is right for me to marry. Believing that I could have a job or whatever I created, believing I would go to the north and marry the one I love, believing that I would um, receive tickets to a concert. So it's a pure heart will align you with this creative power that is inside of you. And it will show you that this is the life that I have for you. And this is what I want you to keep your mindset on. A pure heart will automatically forgive. A pure heart will have compassion and see the truth that the pain wasn't about you. A pure heart will be acceptance of the truth, non-resistant to the truth. A pure heart will shield off negative thoughts. A pure heart will desire pureness, will see pureness and desire to see the innocence in people. A pure heart will believe that life is worth living, that it is a gift. A pure heart will not give up. Even when things seem hard, it will keep its feet grounded as it climbed the mountains of hope and faith. A pure heart will look forward to future generations and set an example. A pure heart will not want to will want to create a generation of love, will want to dismantle the thoughts of hate and divisiveness and unforgiveness, will want to dismantle resentment, will believe that equality is not just an idea, but it is the divine right of every human being. A pure heart seeks goodness. A pure heart will continue to thrive and move forward. So, is it worth having a pure heart? In my mind, it is, because I believe life is worth living and that continue to move forward despite anything that you have experienced, because you are worth every bit of time, every bit of effort to cultivate, to nourish, to embrace, to express the pureness of your being. True self-expression is what you seek. All right, this is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. It's all about dismantling those thoughts that prevent us from living out our true purpose in life. It's about embracing, it's about nourishing and expressing our gifts, our talents, and our abilities. It's about mastering our minds. It's about purifying our hearts, and expressing that God within. We have the divine right. That's what we're here for. And I challenge you today to rethink everything that you've gone through. Think about it and to decide who it is that you choose to be. And I hope it is to be your true expression of self.